This interview is for the HCOM 353 Digital History Project. Today is Friday, June 27th. I am Jacob Rutherford, and today I'm interviewing my father, Mr. Scott Rutherford. I'd like to start off with you telling us about your early years. How was it growing up, and what was your hometown like?
Hi. So I I was born in 1970, and we grew up. Well, my dad sold appliances in L.A. So he heard about this new community they were building. It's supposedly the largest organized community ever built in America at the time. Had ever been built during that time, and it was named Mission Viejo, and it was like this planned community. And so he decided to first, I think we rented a house when I came home from the hospital, and then we ended up buying a house, um, like a custom house. And back then, um, houses were pretty cheap, but the interest rates were high, so it was pretty tough to get one. But I lived in just Southern California, kind of bliss. Um, it was just so fun. I played a lot of sports. My mom would always try to keep me busy. I have a brother and a sister too, and I was the oldest. We're like 2.5 years apart. By the time I was in eighth grade, I was playing baseball, I was playing soccer, and then all summer we were going to the beach, learning how to surf, and just really enjoying the Southern California lifestyle. Um, I mean, it was great.
Sounds very different from where we live now. What was your education and academic journey like?
Yeah. So my education, um, regular mainstream high school, Capistrano Valley Unified. I lived on the opposite side of the street in my town, so all my friends went to Mission Viejo High. So I was bused a half 45 minutes all the way out to San Juan. But yeah, I did. So I did my regular 4 years there, and then I got lucky and used my little water polo to get to Long Beach State, where I played water polo, and I actually majored in political science, and I got a little emphasis minor in political theory. And then I did a bunch of traveling, and I was a state lifeguard, and I did 10 years and decided, wow, I'm gonna I think I'm gonna go to school and teach. I really liked the idea of I was teaching kids at junior guards. I did summer programs at the Y. I really connected with the kids, teaching them new things, and so I decided to go to CSU Monterey Bay. I thought, oh, cool, it's Central California. It's gorgeous. I lived in the suburbs my whole life, so this was just like a miracle. And 28 years later, boom, I've been teaching middle school for forever since.
Can you talk a little more about your career history?
My career history was like kind of few and far between through high school, and then I worked at the sofa factory. I was like cleaning stuff. It's my first job because I was in sports and in school. I was pretty busy, and so I primarily only had summer jobs. I worked at the Y, taught kids how to swim and surf, and then when in 1991 I was 21 and I decided to try out for state lifeguards down in San Clemente area. It was called Orange Coast. And then boom, I got a job. I went to the summer training. I scored really well in my class. I got a job at State Park in San Clemente. I worked Doheny. I worked Trestles. I worked the trails. Um, and so my career was pretty much I'm going to be a lifeguard, and I'm just going to travel and be a lifeguard. And that's kind of what I thought it would happen. But that is sort of a dream. Can't live at home and travel, every winter, and then work in the summers. So I decided, you know what, let's roll this into a teacher credential. So I went to CSUMB, Monterey Bay again, and I drove up north and I got my credential. My first job was way out in Hollister. I could not get a job up in the Central Coast. And then a job opened up at Moss Landing, and I applied and I got it. And I started teaching math and science and PE there, and that's so much fun. Eighth grade, I was like, I could see the ocean from my classroom. But I started teaching at Moss Landing, and then boom, we closed that school in our district, and then we moved us to Castroville. And so I've been doing eighth grade science and math my whole career, year 28. And that all kind of goes back to lifeguarding and wanting to teach kids.
What would you say are your favorite things about our state?
Oh gosh, so many things. California's geography is amazing. I love to snowboard and ski. I could go to the rivers. I could go to the beaches, but primarily the beaches. Like the ocean is gorgeous. We get lots of good waves and lots of good conditions. Really lucky to grow up in Southern California. Again, San Onofre. It's kind of like I mean, it's where kind of surfing brewed early in the 20s, 30s, 40s when the Duke came to Huntington and taught people how to surf, and we've been surfing ever since. So I really was an ocean guy, and I wanted to be a waterman. I wanted to be able to swim and kayak and surf and sail, and really enjoy just the water, all parts of the water. Even when we traveled, we would snorkel and fish, and it's the life. It's the Southern California, now Central Coast life. We have Pleasure Point. We have some of the most beautiful beaches in California. And right here, we have some of the biggest waves down in Moss Landing. This area, the Elkhorn Slough, those are my favorite things.
What are the biggest problems facing California in your opinion? Housing, water, education? What do you think about all this?
I mean, every issue, I've seen it all, like 1970 to 2025. We've seen all kinds of things, but I'm a teacher, and so my heart and my soul is like union proud, and so I'm always trying to make sure that we're paid fairly for our job. Education is a huge thing. You know, Education. It's all about that, and we're really lucky because when I was younger, teachers were not paid a lot, and then Reagan gutted the state, and teachers lost a lot of money. And thank God we have propositions in California, and the propositions really helped us. We got Prop 30, which allowed schools to get a designated amount from the state budgets every year. And so I've been getting, steadily raises over the last 10, 12 years that I didn't receive my first 20. I was barely making $19,000 my first year teaching. They said I could buy a double wide in Prunedale. I couldn't afford anything, and it's not fair that if education is such a priority that we don't prioritize the funding for it. And so that's always been a major issue for me in California. And I can talk about water, water quality, especially at the beaches. And then sure enough, I live in the Redwoods and I get my water from the creek. We're really lucky where we are. We're actually have safe drinking water on the surface in Central California, which we don't have a well. It's really quite amazing. Actually, we're really lucky where we are to live in a rain-shadowed redwood forest. Additionally, growing up, my dad's whole thing was you got to have a house. You have to own a house if you're going to have a family, because you can borrow off the equity and you can pass that wealth down to the next generation, like your future son. Without a house in California, your borrowing leverage is diminished, and trying to get a house in California is sort of become a hilarious prospect nowadays. Housing prices are through the roof, and when I was, in eighth grade, I've told this story many times. My dad we lost our house that we had custom built in '72. And the bank took it over and, gave us $10,000 and said, move. And so in my brain, watching my family go through that trauma of just like basically getting evicted out of my childhood home and having to rent, 5 miles near the lake in Mission Viejo it was pretty tough. That was my 8th grade into 9th grade year. So becoming a teacher, 10, 20 years later, and being, married to my wonderful wife, trying to buy a house in Central California, and we got really, really lucky. When I tell people how much we bought this house for, they don't believe me. Number one, we got so lucky. I just can't believe how we landed this. But in general, my son trying to buy a house now or pass that on, the house that we live in is his future. I think this is something that he can use to get ahead in his world. But yeah, I feel sorry for all my friends that never bought houses pre-2000 because we just got really lucky. But yeah, definitely an issue in California.
Despite these problems, what gives you hope for the future?
That's a good question. Hope for the future. Of course, education is hope. Without education, then we're not really moving forward as a country, let alone a state or a community. It drives me. Education, number one, getting kids prepared for high school and beyond, whether it's trade or college. I've had a lot of students land really good positions at pretty good companies. Engineering, number one. One of my big things at work is I work for MESA on the side, which is Math, Engineering, Science Achievement, and it's a statewide program to help kids, disenfranchised youth, access engineering classes at a really young age. Again, I'm middle school, so we make balsa wood gliders and we make popsicle stick bridges, and it's a program where kids get to design and think and build and use the iterative process to really try to problem solve. And we've had MESA students become NASA scientists and engineers. We have an astronaut. I have students that landed jobs at tech companies like Google, which is really the hope for the future right there. That educational ticket that they can get if they really use their minds and think can really open doors for them. And again, keeping this redwood forest safe and healthy, and the steelhead still swimming up our creek. Those are the two, probably the biggest things that really help me, hope for the future and making this world a little bit better.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you for the questions. It was fun sharing.